So, Meenu, we all know that content is the foundation for every public speaking professional. But if you want to deliver maximum value, then your content must be broad spectrum and your communication must be hinged upon three core aspects.
Well, Dexter, what are those three aspects and how to create broad spectrum content efficiently?
Well, Meenu, our next speaker will give us a virtual vaccine of the ultimate content creation formula. He is well known for some crazy innovations such as Smart Mousetrap, Golden Eye, and India's first Slim TV.
Wow, he is a long-time innovator, award-winning author of 4 books, and a global speaker. This year, he is also producing a radio show for Akashwani Radio 2 Triple O, coming live from Sydney, Australia. Fellow speakers, please welcome Anand Tamboli.
Let's give a big round of applause, everybody. Virtual applause for Anand Tamboli.
Good to see you all. Shall we begin?
Yep.
Absolutely. So, in fact, I would have loved to be there in Hyderabad, but again, everyone is saying we would have loved. But look, this is one of the things which we all need to do in this virtual world is to adapt to whatever life throws at us and whatever we come across, right? And this is where I would like to talk to all of you about ultimate content creation formula for real and virtual world. But let me begin this with a quick story of my life. I think Dexter also mentioned about me designing Slim TV and Golden Eye. In fact, those are some of the innovations I did when I was working with LG Electronics. So this incident happened when I was in LG in 2004. So August 2004 is when this happened. I was standing in a conference room full of about 30 to 40 senior leaders from LG Electronics, including their managing director, K.R. Kim, lots of other Koreans and foreigners. And my job was to actually pitch for a re-engineering change for one of their patented technologies, Golden Eye. And I had all the content, I had all the information, the survey reports, and everything that I needed to pitch. And yet I flunked. I almost blew it up. So much so that I remember this Mr. K.R. Kim, who's the managing director, he's saying, and he's a man of few words, he said, "You go, come back tomorrow." And I didn't know what actually happened. Why did this go wrong, right? And so I went out of the conference room, and behind me came our product group head, Vipin Gupta. Then again, another colleague of mine from quality, he came out, manufacturing excellence, I came out. So there's a bunch of people who came out and they said, come here, right? And then they started saying, you know what? Everything is fine as far as your content is concerned, but somehow it didn't go well. Let's fix it up. We have an opportunity to do it tomorrow. Good thing is you haven't been kicked out of the company. It was so serious, right? And so we started spending time on actually understanding. So I had literally 12 hours. Next day I had to present. And we were thinking, how do we make this project work? In fact, get approved in first place. So manufacturing excellence guy said, I'll take care of the PowerPoint. Went off he go. Then the quality guy says, okay, I know someone in South Korean headquarters. Let me contact that person and try and understand what kind of formats they appreciate or they understand. So he contacted, and there's again the time difference we're talking about between Seoul and India at that point in time. So this guy sends us a format, half in Korean, half in English, 4 or 5 pages, and he says it read engineering report. And he said, well, this is what you should use to present. And we said, nah, We are not going to do that. It's A, we don't understand. B, it seems a bit clumsy. So we re-engineered that format quickly, and the entire presentation, the entire script was translated into that format. And the next day I was there presenting again the same thing. So eventually I presented all I wanted to say, and yeah, it got approved. I mean, I couldn't believe that what I missed the day before, I flunked the day before, it got just simply so easily approved. It wasn't just approved, I had full support of the team, and it was one of the best projects. In fact, I won an award for delivering this best project. And as you could see here, almost a year later, I was awarded this Korean MD. The person on your left is our managing director, K.R. Kim. And the sticky figure that you see on the right-hand side is the person that you are seeing right now, who is no more sticky, right? He's looking a little bit better. So this is what happened. And that actually made me feel that although you have all the content, although you have all the knowledge, everything is there, but it's not just what you say is important. It is also how you say that is important, right? That's the key message was from that issue, that incident. What you say is not just important, but how you say is also important. Now, we did have a homework to do. I know a lot of people haven't done that so far, but anyway, whoever did it, thank you. And I wanted to just quickly go through that homework and see how people have responded. So here's the thing. So if Dexter can put in a link for a Mentimeter, right? We have got a survey going down there. And the question I'm asking is, when you took that test, it was a 2.5-minute scorecard. Which are the 2 areas where you scored less, right? So let's go to the Mentimeter link that is in the description box right now. Let me just punch in that for you as well. Oh, it's not working? Kumar, I have sent you on LinkedIn just in case if you want to copy that. So that's the link. And in the meantime, probably anyone who hasn't taken the test, maybe you have a time to do it. Did we use chat a lot? Like they had to shut us up?
We did use chat a lot, Anand.
Right. Okay, so there we go. We have got a Mentimeter link. Just go in there, go into Mentimeter and punch in your answers. So basically, I'm asking a question. Which are the 2 areas? So we rated on content, we rated on technology, we rated on composition. Oh, wow. So composition was one of the problematic areas. So 2, 3, 2, half and half. There's a little bit of a content. Wow. Wow. Composition and technology. Now, this is pretty interesting, and at the same time, it's slightly off the expectations, I'll say. Because what does it say to us? That A, content is not the problem. The problem is these 2 areas, right? The problem is composition, problem is technology. Content, we are good. Is that so? Do you think we are good in content and these are the 2 areas? Because if we think that way, then essentially it means this session is per se not required because we're good at content. But here's the thing, there are 3 critical things that you must remember in a virtual world at least, and also it translates back into the real world. And those 3 things should be in an equilateral triangle basis. And those 3 things, as I speak with most of the organizers, or even as an audience, you would ask, okay, what is that important aspect? What are those important aspects when you hire a speaker or when you attend an event? What is that you want to do? And the first thing people will say, well, we want to learn something, right? So there you go. We're talking about education. We want to learn something. The second thing they say that A speaker should entertain us. We should have a good time. If I'm spending 60 minutes in front of you, in front of the laptop, in front of Zoom or any other meeting software, I need to be entertained, right? That's the expectation. People are comparing us with Netflix and YouTube and all that. And the third part, which is inspiration. Now, a lot of people will say that a speaker's job is to inspire. And I would say that's not the case. I mean, our job is to inspire, but we can't do inspiration directly. It always goes through education and entertainment. If you do education well, if you entertain people well, people will be inspired. So this is an outcome. You can't give this as an input. These are the two which are input. How many people you know, in fact, all of us who have sat through this boring 1 hour lecture, right? College days or even school days, 1 hour. We get a lot of education, don't we? And still we don't like it because there is no entertainment. And all those teachers, remember, all those teachers, professors, lecturers, who we like, we wanted to attend their classes because they had this element of entertainment in that. Now, please don't misunderstand. We are not talking about those celebrity speakers here. We're not talking about dancing or singing, all that. We're talking about just pure good content, but still entertaining people in a different way, right? And that's where I've got this cards. I'm not a magician, so I'm not going to do that. But hey, this is what we do, right? So what I'm going to do now is I've got these cards. I'm going to throw these cards up and randomly I'm going to pick a few of those cards. Ideally, I would take 3 of those cards and see what comes up. And based on that, we'll jump into 1 card each, right? Ready? So here we go. Okay, I'm going to catch this one. Okay, got it. 1 more. Okay. Oops, I've got 2. Right. So I've got these cards with me. I managed to pick up these many cards. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. So I have 5 cards with me. So let's go with the first one. The first card we have is this. King. So who is the king? We all know. Who is the king? King is
Content.
the content, right? Content is our king. For speakers, we always think content is the king. And that's where this formula comes into picture. So why this formula? Let's get on to that. Why this formula, right? So now, if you haven't got anything to write, I would recommend now you get something to write on. It may be pen, paper, notebook, notepad, post-it, pencil, eraser, sharpener, blood, knife, whatever you use to write, get that and write this formula down, right? Write this formula down and ask yourself, what is the speaking fee usually you get, or maybe you want to get? Write that fee at the top in the numerator, and in the denominator, write how much time actually you spend in preparing for that particular speech, right? And I'm telling you this formula because in lots of developed nations, or even in India, we do have that something called as a minimum wage, right? And so minimum wage basically is per hour wage. So this is something which you must pay to a person who is a laborer or something. And if you calculate this formula, how much you want to earn in that 1 hour versus how many hours you're spending, I will tell you, for a lot of people, this goes below minimum wage. Think about it. Speakers, and we are not even getting paid as much as a plumber or electrician gets paid per hour basis. And this is the problem. Now, why is this a problem from another angle, right? This is also not commercially smart. Now, think about it. We are not just doing speaking for the sake of speaking or just because it's a passion. We do that to make our living. We are professional speakers. We do that to basically build a business, right? We want to earn money. And you do want to, the basic principle for any business is you want to earn money but make profit. And this formula essentially puts us behind a few steps if you are trying to make profit, especially in virtual work. And think about it from your marketing perspective. When you start doing, we all have to do videos, we have to do the social media things, writing articles and the books and all that. And for everything that we do, in order to generate that level of content, we're spending time. And so as much as we earn versus how much time we spend, this number gets worse and worse. And so this is what I want to talk about today, as to how do we get this number better. So the first thing, I want to give a quick disclaimer, because the format I'm going to share, you may find similar formats. A lot of speakers do have some kind of a models or format. This is something which I have developed. And so if you haven't downloaded this format yet, in fact, Kumar may have put up the link, but you can also use the bit.ly link here or scan QR code. Download this format. It's one page of PDF file, and we are going to use this format today just to make you understand how this format looks like, what are the essential elements, and how do we go about those elements. So this is about the iPOP format, and I call it as the iPOP format for a reason. So iPOP stands for insightful point on page. So we all make points, right? We have some points to make. We have a message to deliver. How do you write this message, this point, on one A4 page? That's the idea. And how does this help in actually creating a pretty broad level content? And when I say broad level or broad spectrum, I mean all these three things, essentially. This is what Aristotle has said. And in fact, Aristotle has said there are four things. The first one is ethos. Then we have logos, we have pathos, and there is something called as a kairos. So let's talk about these three things. The first one, ethos, about credentials, who you are. Are you a credible person? Have you done something in your life that makes you say something, right? So I cannot go and tell somebody about medical. I cannot give that advice because I am not credible medical advisor, and so on and so forth. So that's about ethos, and we all understand it's pretty much content oriented. It's pretty much credentials oriented. But the second part is logos. It's a logic we use to persuade people. We use to persuade and make them change, make them inspire, and receive the message that we have to give. But the problem here is not everyone is logical. And that's where our content starts to fall short. At the same time, then a lot of people will say, well, that's why we tell stories, right? That's why we have feelings and emotions enrolled in that. And that's the pathos part. That's what the pathos is about. But again, if you overdo pathos, all the people who believe in logic are going to get distracted. So think about it. A lot of us have heard about this right brain, left brain people, right? Some people are too analytical, methodical. They understand numbers. They understand the formulas and this series of things. And there are some people who are feeling oriented, especially the right brain people who like stories, who are emotions, pictures, and all the metaphors. These are the things they prefer in order to understand. Now, how do you know who is in your audience? We don't. We know a general profile. Like someone may say, okay, you come and speak to our employees. Most of them are engineers. But hey, even engineers, some of the engineers are not analytical. They do prefer stories over this. And so if you don't know the audience clearly, you may upset one part of it. And God forbid, if you have a larger portion of one kind of audience and you keep on going telling stories, the message is not going anywhere, right? So our message, our content has to be broad spectrum. That means it covers everybody who understands all those aspects of it. Now, so if you have downloaded the format, you will see there are 7 elements, right? The first element in the story, in the format is case study. When we talk about case studies, it is essentially the story, but told in a very corporate style. And case studies, a lot of people prefer to have those case studies so that you make your point, because they give a lot of numbers. They talk about something happening in that particular context, and it is more so credible because it has happened for the particular company. It's verifiable. Mostly it is verifiable, right? But the second aspect on the format, and if you have downloaded that format, you will see this is the right hand side or the right brain thinking. It's a story. And the commonality between case study and the story is both answer exactly same question. The question is, what happened? Right? So now let's step back and see when I opened up with my story. I told you about the LG Electronics incident that happened. And it's not a case study. Of course, the company has written case study around it. So this is a story I started with, and I told you precisely what happened. And if you were to actually write your content using this structure, what happened answer should be somewhere around 400 to 500 words. Don't go beyond 500. Don't go under 300. Keep it between 300 and 500 and write your story. Tell your story within that word limit. Same applies to case study. Even if we are talking about case study, we need to talk in 300 to 500 word limit. And I'll get back to you on that as to why we are saying 300 to 500 words, right? The third aspect is essentially the perspective. So if you're watching the format right now, we've got the right-hand side is the story, the case study, and then you see perspective. Now, this is something which is unique to you. What is your perspective when this happened? So put it in a question. We are answering, what did it mean to you? So what happened? What did it mean to you? And I told you, when this happened, when the LG incident happened, it meant that actually all my efforts, all my content, all the surveys that I did, all the field study I did were not enough, right? I needed to do something more. Unfortunately, then people came to help me. So that's my perspective. And the good part is perspective is unique to you. Like there were 40 other people in the conference room. All 40 would have different perspective. And so if somebody else stands up here and tells you a story, their story may be slightly different because their takeaway will be different. My takeaway is this. So when you write your content, you write your perspective. You saw something. This is what happened. This is what it meant to you. And now we have got the fourth element. And the fourth element is again the context. So why are you telling this? Right? Under what umbrella it fits? Are you talking about innovation? Are you talking about technology? Are you talking about social justice? Are you talking about equality? Are you talking about politics? What are you actually talking about? In my case, I'm talking about communication. And that's what we ratified right at the beginning, that this was all about communication. I had everything, but the communication wasn't right. So this is a one-word answer. So I'll repeat again. So story or case study is about 300 to 500 words. The perspective is about 3 to 4 lines. Or to put in numbers, it would be less than 50 words. 50, 60 words should be enough. And the context is 1 or 2 word thing, right? So now we are actually stacking up the content while following this format. Now, what's the next thing? The next thing in that format on this side you will see is metaphor. And I remember Daniel Pink saying once, he says, a picture is worth 1,000 words. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but a metaphor is worth 1,000 pictures. So that's the big thing, because the moment I give you a metaphor, you kind of understand everything. Of course, you need to know the context. So a lot of metaphors apply in geographical context or cultural context, right? So for example, if I say it's much like a masala movie. Now, a lot of people here, if you're not from India, if you don't understand the Bollywood language, you don't know what masala movie means. But those who know, they exactly know what I'm talking about. I don't have to elaborate any further. They get the point. That's the metaphor I'm talking about, right? So a lot of people don't want to listen to the whole story. They don't want to even listen to a couple of sentences. They want to know, okay, tell me shortly, what is it? That's the metaphor. So some of the people do understand metaphor. Some of the people don't understand metaphor. They understand pictorial language, especially this side of people, the left brainy people, right? They understand pictures. And when I say pictures, I'm not talking about a overarching picture. I'm talking about a model, a diagram. Like, for instance, we started with a triangle, right? I told you that there are three aspects and so I'm going to talk about each of that aspect. So this is a model. We're talking about this model in a way that these are the three aspects, and how do we actually make use of those three aspects. So this is picture, or the model we are talking about. And then, so we have got story, we have got the case study, we have got the perspective, the context, the metaphor, the picture, and now we have the final point. Because essentially, why I am saying all these things? People are going to ask you, why are you telling me a story? Why are you telling me what's your perspective? What's your point? And if you go back to the LG story, I told you the point was, it is not what I say is important. It is how I say it also is important, right? It's not just what I say, it's also how I say it. That's my point. That's why I'm asserting. So now if you put back the whole thing into this structure, you will see how you tell a story, link it back to your perspective, put it in a context, give some metaphors, show them a picture that clarifies your point, and then make your point. Now, what is this going to give you? This is going to give you a couple of things, right? The first thing is going to give you a lot of content, but, and I always say this, is if you have a doubt, edit it out. We are not creating content for the sake of creation. It has to have a value. So always follow this mantra. When in doubt, edit it out. But whatever you create, so for example, one iPOP, this one A4 page format, if you follow, you will be able to create at least 1500 words of an article. And I will give you an example. Like, you can go online and see this example when you get a time. About last year, almost around the same time, the Blue Circle, one of the CXO forum, published my article, and it was titled, Why You Should Stop Focusing on Customer Problems. Now, although the title is a bit provocative, but it is also important to understand, I followed exact same formula. Of course, I eat my own dog food, right? I practice what I preach. So I use this formula. And the reason I'm telling you this is it is one of the most read article of all my articles for last year. But good thing for you is if you go and read that article on my website, you can actually reverse engineer the whole content and see, okay, this is the story, this is the case study, this is the metaphor, this is the picture. And so when you go through all of that, then you will understand what I mean when you create this engaging content. So this is 1500 word article we are talking about. One iPOP giving you 1500 word article, about 300 to 500 word story, 300 to 500 word case study, 100 few words here at the bottom. And when you kind of mix it up, you get that level of content. But the other thing that you can do with that is if you talk through the content, right? Whatever you have written, if you talk, roundabout, we speak at 120, 150 words a minute. So if you create a 1500 words of a content, you're going to talk about 10 to 15 minutes. That is 10 to 15 minutes of your speech. It could be, right? The third thing that you can do with is how do you actually create social media posts? Same format. You take a story and you make your point, post it. That's one. You take a case study, make your point. That's number two. You take a picture or a metaphor or mix and match and again make your point. That's number three. So essentially, one format is giving you 3 opportunities to post something on social media. You don't have to think every day as to what I'm going to do. This is ready. Another thing, you can also create at least 2 videos. Talk through one video, a short video, tell a story, make your point, talk through metaphor. Create another video, talk through case study, show some diagrams, make a point. 2 videos, 2 short videos, right? Bite-sized content. How about writing on the pages? Now, if you actually look at the book, 5x8 size book or say 6x9, the typical typeset book, one page of the book has about 450 words on it. When we talk about 1500 words, we're talking about 3 pages of the book. What does that mean? That means if you have got 45 iPOPs, you have a book ready. You just have to kind of mix that together and get it in publishing, right? But it also means if I have 3 to 5 iPOPs roundabout, I have my one keynote speech ready. So another exercise for you after this, I know we're getting this recorded, so go and watch this recording and see how many iPOPs I have used for this presentation. In fact, this gives you such a flexibility, because I know when Praveen and I had a call last month, he was saying that what kind of topic you want to speak on, because he had a different topic in mind. And I said, well, I can talk about this. And I had my content pretty much ready. I didn't have to prepare for the content. Of course, composition part is different and we'll talk about that, but it doesn't take much of a time. You are always ready. The second aspect of having this type of a content is you get to restructure it. And we'll talk about restructure, but essentially what we are talking about here is the ultimate content creation formula, because it is giving you this. One iPOP, just one page iPOP is giving you an article, giving you a part of the speech, giving you 3 posts, giving you 3 pages of a content, plus 2 videos, plus a few of the iPOPs will give you a keynote and a book. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why I think this is the ultimate formula. If you try and follow this formula, you can create any kind of content and still stay relevant, because all of this content will gel together. It will be homogeneous. Now, if you actually go back and calculate this thing, your speaking fee and how much time you really need to prepare for it, I'm sure that preparation time will go down, which means your return on investment is going to be much higher. This formula will work in your favor. And that's the key idea. That's the key thing. So a couple of things that you would want to remember here, right? The first thing you want to remember is always use broad spectrum content. Always use broad spectrum and reusable content. And what I mean by that, we talked about people being analytical, left brain side. We talked about people being a bit more feeling, emotional, right brain people. And because we don't know which kind of people we have in audience, we want to have the content broad spectrum. Always have content broad spectrum. As you start speaking, you will understand how people are responding, and then you can omit some of the content and you can maximize on some of the content. So it becomes easier for you to maximize or minimize some part of your iPOP. The second thing I want you to understand is create a portfolio, because it's not a one-time thing. If you have a portfolio of iPOPs, and especially, at least in my case, I use this pen and paper, but you can use it in Evernote or whatever format you want to use, or use it in the PDF file, whatever format you use, create that portfolio and keep it searchable. So imagine next day someone says, like, this is what happened with Praveen also. He's saying, what's the theme? Raise the game. So exactly you go on, what are those contexts where you talked about amplifying something, raising the game, or maximize on something. Pull out 3 or 5 iPOPs, and there you go. Your keynote is pretty much done. Then you just have to work on your transitions, opening, closing, and all that. But pretty much you're done. You already know what you're going to say. It's just how you're going to say it is going to make the next difference. And the third part, the most important part. Keep your content modular and layered, because I know this happens pretty frequently. In live environment, it happens a little bit rare, but virtual a lot. And that is, people say, you know what, we've got some technical problems. So we can't actually go beyond up to 45 minutes. Can we do it in 30 minutes? Now, if you have got a monolithic content, you're not going to get through. You will have struggle ending it on 30th minute. I remember when I was speaking in API days last year, not last year, a year before that, it was in Melbourne, and the pointer wouldn't work. I was on stage and this guy says, okay, I'll give you another pointer. That ate up at least 5 minutes because I was not able to change slide, but I had other content just in my head. So I continued. And that was possible only because I have those modular content. So I can add something, remove something whenever needed. And that gives you a lot of power. And trust me, a lot of organizers will love you for being accommodated. So that's another commercial smart thing to do, to be ready to adapt to any of those circumstances. So keep your content layered. So that's the key, right? So we talked about content. That's the foundation. What about the other side of things? What is the second part of it, right? And so the question is, second part is Jack. So this is the card we have got, right? We have got this second card as Jack. And the story behind all the playing cards essentially is like this. And all the playing cards do have some sort of funny stories. With the Jack, thing is, they say in 16th and 17th century, Jacks were general purpose servants. You know, we have got someone is a gardener, someone is a sweeper, someone is a cook. Jack is a general purpose servant to the king, which means whatever king tells to do, they will do it at random. Who is the general purpose servant in today's world? In today's world, the general purpose servant is technology, right? So with the technology, although the thing is, merely getting by is not going to be helpful. And why is that? Because there's this notion, oh, I've got my camera at an eye level, I've got my laptop, I've got my ring light, I've got my lighting, pointers, all of that, this is figured out. No, that's not technology we are talking about. It's the basic. It is something as a professional you've got to have. If someone is opening a barber shop, having a scissor is basic, right? So in our context, having all these things, this technology is basic. What we are talking about is going beyond that. And let me tell you, I have a very love and hate relationship with technology. So it so happened that when I was a kid, we had this 14-inch TV at home. I don't remember. It was a black and white Salora, Onida, or some sort of thing. And I used to open that up and see what is inside. That love for technology actually grew in, and finally I did engineering. That resulted in me going to engineering companies, including LG Electronics, then followed by HSBC, where also I worked in technology field. I started my own company, Neuron Technology. So everything tech. You got the point, right? So I have seen technology up close and personal, and people, we haven't even scratched the surface. This is just basic cameras and lights and all. I want to suggest, use technology beyond that. Use technology to create something engaging. Create some eye-catching show. Remember again, we are not just talking about education, we are talking about entertainment, because education plus entertainment equals inspiration. No entertainment, no inspiration. It's just the education. Nobody wants it. So you want to create eye-catching content, but also this is something which I often say, and I come from innovation background. So we always say, jugaad or being resourceful, why try to spend too much money? The point is you have to find a balance, right? Sometimes it's good. YouTube has huge and some good content. Go for that, go there and work for free. But sometimes time is the money. Again, speaking fee divided by preparation time. If that is the concern, seek professional help, because essentially you don't want to lead with technology. Our core is not technology. Our core is the message. That always comes first. Technology comes second. In fact, I have someone else who I wanted them to talk about it a little bit, about their experience today. He couldn't make it, so he sent me his video. So let's have a look at what he is saying. You might.
Hello, Namaste professional speakers. I am excited to be recording this video for you. However, I'm a bit disappointed because I am not able to attend the summit. Mainly because of her, my wife, who is pregnant. It happened during lockdown. Now we are in that phase where she has to go through some critical scanning and the dates are clashing with the summit dates. I hope you accept my leave letter. Last year in the month of Jan in New Delhi, when I attended the conference, I met Praveen Shekhar, and he was kind enough to give me a few more copies of his book and said, Chinmay, give this book to that professional speaker in Australia whom you think would benefit. And I gave it to Jenny Winter in the month of March at the Professional Speakers Conference in Adelaide. She had won the prestigious Kerry Knight Scholarship for Public Speaking. This was the world we were living in until COVID happened. I'm sure all of us, we have gone through our own share of ups and downs. I was forced to work from home. For me, the biggest challenge was to keep my audience engaged virtually. So this is where I decided to invest in technology. I started buying all these studio lights. I bought extra monitor. But what I noticed is the moment I share my screen, the attention span and the engagement level of the audience was going down. And someone said, you should buy this ATEM switcher. You can switch between scenes and you can still have the audience engaged. Yes, it was a solution. However, it was a very complicated solution and to an extent, a very expensive solution. That is when I decided to take a step back, and I was reminded by the words of my mentor, who used to always tell me, the shortest distance between point A and point B is always a simple solution. That is when I went out asking for help, and I came across the software called Manycam, which was serving my purpose to an extent. However, as an engineer, call it arrogance or call it engineer's mindset. For me, technology is supposed to adapt to my needs, not the other way around. Fortunately, then I came across the software called as OBS, which is a free open source software. And now I have been using it for more than 8 months. And I am able to do all of this without sharing my screen and with just touch of a button. The best thing is I can set scenes. It's like, no, you're walking into a different stage, which is already ready. So you don't have to prepare all this every single time, and you can do it at just a click of a button. I have gone a step ahead by having multiple cameras. As my expertise is in the subject finance, I love my whiteboard to demystify numbers. And I have noticed to a great extent the engagement of my audience has gone up. Of course, this is not it. We need to keep looking. We need to be creative. We need to look out for other simple solutions. Let me remind you of something that you already know. It is okay to ask for help. A wise man once said, if we ask for help, we might look like a fool for a few minutes. But if we don't ask for help, we will remain a fool for the rest of our life. Finally, I would like to leave you with this. The shortest distance between point A and point B is always a simple distance. Take care. Have a wonderful summit. I hope we will get an opportunity to meet in person sometime soon.
Thank you, Chinmay. Cool, wasn't it? So in fact, those who don't know Chinmay is also an engineer, by the way. And so for him, also the same thing. He believes that tech should work for me and not the other way around. But did you notice one of the things that he did? He actually used iPOP in a pretty interesting way, right? His speech was about 4 minutes long, and he told you a story. He gave you some examples, and he made a point. He made a point that you shouldn't overuse technology because the simplest distance between 2 points is straight line. Now that's another example as to how effective iPOP could be just to create this small bite-sized video, right? And in fact, I remember today morning, Mark Stewart also said that, right? Don't overuse technology. But the point is, use tech to enhance your storytelling. It should feel like you're living the story, not just telling the story, right? And it is difficult in virtual environment to do, but with technology, you can make that happen. And that's the key, right? So we talked about stories. We talked about technology. We talked about the content and all that stuff. Now the question is, what is the next? What's the third part of it? And you would have guessed it, but the third card, so let me pull that card out from my pocket, is this one, the Queen of Hearts. Now we have all these queens out there who are, and I know a lot of queens attending today who have been spending last 10 months, 10, 11 months, been very hard on you. So kudos to all the queens who are attending today, right? All the queens. A round of applause for all the queens who have been attending today. Because, thank you, because these are the queens who help keep our home tidy and composed. Without them, our home, or even if we talk about the content, it will look much like this, right? We don't want that. We want our content, we want our home to be tidy. Nobody goes on a journey by dumping all these details like this. Do we ever go on a journey like that? We don't. Then why should we get all our content and dump it in our speech? We shouldn't, right? We should always use the content in an effective way, and which is why the third aspect is composition. Because you may have a good content, you may use the good technology, but if you don't compose it nicely in a digestible manner, it's going to be tough on audience. They won't get it. And so the message won't go across. And that's the point, right? We want our content to be nice and tidy. And in fact, a lot of people, I don't know how many people you have seen who think composition is like putting content in bullet points. Please don't. Because bullets essentially kill, right? Oh, who is angry? Please don't shoot. This is laptop. It's not coming through. So don't use bullets. Not here, not on presentation. Use some fluid content because you do want your content to be really flowing through nicely. People don't even need to think about, oh, how the 1 hour has passed, right? How the message has gone through, and they don't even realize how it gone through. It has to be really nicely placed. And in fact, this looks nice, right? This is how your back should be. This is how your speech also should be, right? And which is why it is important to compose your speech. And iPOP format will help you do that. iPOP format will help you in understanding your persona, and that's the first thing. If you understand audience persona, then you will know, fine, my audience is responding well to stories, so let me increase stories. Well, every time I go and talk about case study, they don't respond, they feel sleepy or they're not really being engaged. I will minimize it. And this is a sequence. So remember what happened, what did it mean to you, and what is it about, and what's your point? This is the sequence. We don't go back and forth. You don't start with the point, right? Think about it. Again, masala movie, I give this example quite often. What's the problem with masala movies? The problem is there is a fight scene, Then suddenly there is a romance scene, and suddenly out of nowhere there is a song. And basically it's just that they have dumped everything in the movie, like a masala spicy movie. And there's a specific audience who likes that, but not all of it. It is not inspiring kind of a movie, right? You want a movie, think about all the movies that you admire. They are not like that. They're composed very well. The message flows nicely, succinctly, and engagingly. So that's the key. Find your audience and use that persona, that idea to craft your content. Second thing, be clear about the setup and the flow, because if you don't know how the flow is going to be looking like, look, it's slightly different. I'm actually underestimating. It's not slightly different. It's a lot different in virtual world, because in live environment, we pretty much know how the flow is going to look like. It's very tried and tested. In online, it's different. You would be surprised, and in fact, you won't be surprised to know that how many platforms are out there. Zoom is the largest and most used one. There's like Blue Jeans, GoToMeetings, and go to webinars, Skype, and all of that, Google Meet. There's dozens of them. And every platform, every tech has got their own quirks. Your composition, because some of the things won't work in that platform, some of the things work on particular platform, and that affects the delivery. So you want to understand this setup in order to create a great composition, exactly what you are dealing with. And this is another area. The composition also means how you are engaging with audience. Just using poll is not engagement. Whether you are actually talking to audience, are you using other methods of audience engagement? That also counts. So use something which hasn't been used before so that people feel involved, and it gives a very nice touch to your overall composition. So that's about the composition part of it. So we covered the triangle, we covered the content, we covered the technology, we covered the composition part of it. Now here's the question. Would you settle for the triangle if it was possible to get a diamond? I know I talked about three aspects, right? But why would you settle for three aspects? Remember, you've got few cards left. I got 5 cards. So what's the 4th card? That's the ace. The ace is what? Who is the ace? What is the ace? The question is, again, who do you think ace is? What do you think ace is? Because we did talk about content, right? We talked about queen, the composition. We talked about the jack, the technology. What is the ace? Type your answers. You yourself, speaker. Wow. Okay. I have slightly different answer to that, right? So let me take you back into movies. Do you identify these 2 movies? What's on the left and what's on the right? Anyone? Yeah? Which are those 2 movies? Dawn. Yes, Dawn. Dawn ko pakadna mushkil nahi. But both the Dawns are, one is the original, the other one is the remake, right? One is from what, 60s or 70s? Other is 2009 or 10. Now, those who have watched both movies, especially I have done this experiment. I asked people who have watched both the movies, and I said, okay, which movie did you like? Right? If there is a comparison. And a lot of people said that they are not same. They prefer the older one more than the new Dawn, the remake. Why is that? Did you ever feel that way? The one is better than other? Now look, the content is same. It's the same storyline, right? Except the last punch, but pretty much the entire content is same. In fact, the new ones has used better technology, 30, 40 years apart. The composition was much better than before. And yet people think Amitabh Bachchan movie is way better than Shah Rukh Khan movie. Why?
Authenticity.
And every time I ask that question, people usually say, well, you know what he brings to the character is not something which other movie does that, right? And that's the key. The key in here is not just the content, just the text, just the composition. It is also what somebody brings to that story, brings to that delivery, and which is why, ladies and gentlemen, the diamond is you. But again, make no mistake, I'm not saying you are in the spotlight. Speaker is never in the spotlight. The message is in the spotlight. We are not supposed to be in the spotlight. Always shine on the message. So why I'm saying you as a ace? And the answer goes much like this. We we talked about this essence. We talked about bringing something new to the character. And think about a story, the same story that two people have told, but one person has got a very different way of telling the story, and you want to learn or you want to listen that story only from that person, because they're bringing that character, bringing something that we can't really figure out, because it's not about the form, it's not something which is visible, it's about the essence. So you want to have that essence, so that even if somebody takes your content, even if somebody uses the same technology, same way of delivery, it still wouldn't feel right. Much like the Dawn movie, you will still feel, that one was better. That speech was better. And that's what will make you stand out and go out in the world to make some mark, right? So that's about having the essence here. So let's jump on to Q&A before I make my closing remarks. I know the chat is on fire, so let's go on Q&A, and then we will go back and answer, do the closing basically. Shall we? Dexter, Minu, let's do that.
Great, fantastic, fantastic. Before we jump into the Q&A, I have to say over here, Anand, so I have been in the training industry for nearly, 20 years now. But after watching you in action today, I am going to quote the Renaissance genius Michelangelo, who at the age of 87 said, Ancora imparo, which in Italian means, yet I am learning. So thank you so much, Anand. Thank you so much for teaching us this, all of these inputs, ethos, pathos, logos. I mean, this is brilliant. Thank you so much.
Anand,
Minu, what you say?
Anand, you were so simply superb. You just pulled one card after another, and it was so gripping that while I am still trying to sink in those amazing insights, can I ask you something?
Yes.
You're the one who wrote the script of on this Netflix series, House of Cards.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding. Normally it is said that after lunch session is a bit heavy, but your workshop just redefined the whole thing. This was some food for thought and served real hot with all masala and technology. So once again, thank you very much.
Excellent. How many questions do we have?
I think the first biggest question, Anand, everybody's got for you is, what technology are you using currently to have all of those effects? And I've been getting messages on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and on Zoom asking me all this. So that's really the first question.
Right. Okay. So I'm using the external compositor, and a lot of you might know about it. It's called OBS. If you are on Mac, you could use something called as the Ecamm. There's also something called as the VMix, XSplit. That part is, again, I say technology is just the media, right? How you want to actually use it, because I'll tell you, even Chinmay was using OBS. And you saw how he used differently. Everybody who is using the same thing does it differently. That's the composition part.
Interesting. And I think, Minu, the next question that we got was, tell us about the card trick.
I think this question from Sandeep Nath, how to get Menti output in transparent embedding?
How long we have? Do we have 1 hour to do that? No. It's a bit of a tech workshop thing. I mean, look, usually what you would want to do is layer it differently on your sources, if you understand what I'm saying. And yeah, that's pretty much it. A little bit of a color grading or color adjustments, and a bit of that should help you get to that point.
Srijata was curious to know, when did you become a magician, Anand?
I'm not. I told you before, I'm not a magician. But look, there are certain things which, and I want to emphasize that, because I do some of these so-called magical tricks with a lot of people, and they say, "Oh, you're a magician." I'll tell you one thing: a magic for one person is technology for another. I'm simply using certain technology, and I know it, so I don't feel magic. But if you don't know, you feel magic. And the same thing will happen with all the magicians, right? They know how it works. It's a trick. It's an illusion. So don't feel much, but we feel it's magic. And that's what we want to use that to pass on our message.
Very nice. I think you've said it all over there, actually. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any further questions for Anand, I know he's kept us spellbound over the last hour and a half. I saw people, Anand, writing, making notes, typing, asking questions, and kudos to you for this wonderful presentation and for really, really delivering a masterclass for us today, Anand.
Thank you.
So
I think I've still got a card left. And this is not for closing. I think I got one card extra out of this flying card. So I don't know what to do with this.
You still have one trick up your sleeve.
Maybe we should use it for something. Yes, Meenu.
Sorry, Vikas has a question.
Yes.
Just a second.
And may I throw in another question while Meenu's hunting for that one? I think one question that came in for Ainian, and we have so many technical questions, Anand. One question was how to set up the simplest studio. I mean, if you had to really put a basic format in place, what would you recommend just for the basics?
Well, I think the first part is always audio. You got to get the audio right, because again, Mark said in the morning, you may not watch me, but if you don't hear me, that's the first no. You want a specific audio, and always keep some of the backup. Like I've got 2 microphones lying down here. If this goes down, I have all the backups done. The lighting is the second part, which is like the basic camera the lighting will make it look good if you do it rightly. And mostly I do recommend you have at least 2 different lights, so that they can cancel each other. Otherwise, there are lots of shadows. And we are not talking about some glamour photography here. Otherwise, shadows are fine. But there has to be, you want to be seen completely, so you need at least 2 lights. Don't go beyond 2 lights. Maybe 3-point lighting is good. And you have seen in Chinmay's thing, he's got softbox lighting and all that, but this is expensive equipment. And sometimes your income may not justify, or even it may not be justifiable. So try and do the lighting as the second part, audio first, lighting second. And the third is, of course, what kind of technology you're using. And it has to complement with what message you're giving all the time. I mean, that's the foundation, as we know. So that's how you would want to set up your studio. My studio, I think the budget for mine has been roughly around $2,000, $3,000, less than that, in fact. But depends. I have seen lots of people who have built $15,000 studios. I think it's overdone.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, great presentation, Anand. So my question was around Manycam. So Chinmay mentioned about Manycam. So is Manycam is also good software? Because when I used OBS, it requires heavy machine, like high RAM. Otherwise, system just freezes. I've asked in many forums, and it came out that you need to have a really good machine to run OBS. So any experience with Manycam?
I have used Manycam as well. So in fact, my first usage was on Manycam. I purchased and I went for refunds on that, because it doesn't matter whether you use Manycam, Ecamm, OBS, XSplit, any of that. The moment you add external compositor, it's going to eat a lot of processing power. Now, some of the things that you would want to optimize in your machine is how do you actually remove some of the components which you don't need? Because again, with OBS, the thing is, it was built for gaming. We are not gamers. So there are a lot of things you can remove. And when you remove that, then it becomes leaner. Then it works just fine. Manycam, in my view, again, eats up a lot of memory, so I discarded that. That's the thing. And it's costly, right? That's another piece.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Anand, another question is coming through is, do you have a master class, like a one-on-one, a dummies one-on-one series that we could join and sign up for?
All right. Okay. There's one thing I think probably Kumar or you might be announcing later. So as a part of the gift from me to all of you, we do have a master class. We call it the Virtual Presentation Mastery. And we have a coupon code for all of you to just go and use that. I think it's some good percentage off, just in case if you're interested. But that's not the motive here. Even if you want just one-on-one, just some time, I'm fine with it.
That's
end of the
very,
day, I
very
want to
generous
help
of
you
you.
guys to shine.
Absolutely. So I'm going to throw in a question from Neerja here. And Neerja says, it is a race all the time to keep up with technology. How do you stay ahead of it? Do you anticipate or you just keep up?
For me, I mean, again, I think when we were in the breakout rooms, somebody asked me a question, what's your take on that? And I said, I do want to break bubbles, sort of thing. A lot of people will say, oh, keep up with that. I think keeping up with at least the technological progression is not easy. It's not easy because it is changing exponentially. I would again refer you to read that article which I talked about, why you should stop focusing on customer problems, because exactly that point I talk about. And there is an interesting example I talk about is bacteria. And how is this difficult for us to even cope up with that change? The best case scenario for us is to actually go 2 steps ahead and then work from there. So we can't play side by side. We have to go 2 steps ahead and do it. So that's what my take on that is.
Stay ahead of the game. Absolutely. There's a question for you here, which is about the clicker for OBS. What does it look like and where did you get it from?
Oh, well, you could use a normal PowerPoint clicker. I think just the Logitech ones you could use. I'm using a wireless keyboard. This is a mini keyboard. This should be available on, try wireless remote or wireless keyboard, handheld keyboard or remote. You should find it. Basically, it's got more number of keys, right? So then I can assign more number of actions. Oh, the normal clicker gives me about 6 keys. If I want to do more than 6, then I use this one.
So what's
Amazon,
happening?
eBay.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Amazon, eBay, that's where I think you will find this.
So what's happening right now, Anand, is that people have become absolute fans of your technology. And they're asking questions like, which camera do you use to stream?
So, ladies and gentlemen, I have posted something in the chat where Anand's Virtual Presentation Mastery, which is a professional program, he is offering for PSAI community on a discounted rate. And we will send you an email about it with a discounted code after the summit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
For the camera, for the camera question, right? Look, any camera that is not laptop camera is good. That's number one. Laptop cameras, if you're in a normal meeting, if you're working professional, maybe okay. We are professional speakers. We need a little bit of a professional equipment. I'm not saying you go and buy some high-end DSLR cameras. If you can, go. But use your phone. There are lots of ways you can use your phone to put up and couple it up with your laptop. A lot of time now, I have got a DSLR, I have got a normal camera, I have got a phone. When I want to use 2 cameras, for instance, I don't have 2 DSLRs. So then I use one DSLR, one phone camera, and I do it that way. So you can do mix and match, but sometimes I'm just lazy. So I don't want to set up this whole thing. I just go with the phone camera. So you can start with phone camera. I think that's the best camera you have. Start with phone and then graduate.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely sage advice. Start with the basics, and then as you keep advancing, keep getting better. That's brilliant. Meenu, do you have any other questions for Anand? I think we will probably take his entire the entire day asking him
Yes, I think
all so many questions.
we still have some time, probably another 5 to 10 minutes to take questions. Anand, if you're okay with it.
Yeah,
No,
I think
we
we've
got to
got
get the
15
fifth
minutes,
card
right?
out of him.
Yeah. We've got 15 more minutes.
Yeah, actually 15 more minutes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Anand, I'm going to throw you a question which I asked even Mark in the morning, and the question is: you're a speaker and you're a trainer as well, right? How do you balance the both? You focus on your speaking career, you focus on your training career. How does that work for you?
For me, it goes hand in hand, and especially in virtual world, it is going hand in hand because selling speech is difficult because it's short, right? The only thing you can possibly sell in that case is, okay, your audience will be inspired and they'll get some ideas and all that. People still don't get the understanding that how inspiration will be useful. But if you go and say that, hey, I'll take training for 3 hours and these are the learning objectives, learning outcomes, it's easier sell. So I still use training as the main, one of the main area. Speaking, of course, it's one to many, right? It's one to many and you can impact a lot of people at once. It needs a different skill. I do balance it in terms of, say, I don't want to do a full-time speaking, but I also don't want to do full-time training. So it just goes on the mood, how I'm feeling. Do I want to do more of a trainings or do I want to do more of a speaking? And the market, of course. If market is not responding, my feelings pretty much don't matter.
That's interesting to hear. In fact, just got a comment from Jessica, and the comment is selling speeches is hard, at times. So any suggestions, any tips that you could share with us speakers over here?
Well, look, I don't sell speech. I sell training program and speech is on top of that. So essentially you sell the same package, but you lead with something else, right? Because there are lots of speakers we know. We go saying, okay, you're getting my speech. You're booking me for keynote. Why don't you add a few more thousands and then have a workshop, right? That's the classic upsell. Try doing the other way around, saying, hey, buy my workshop, but I'm happy to do the speaking for free, and you compensate that in workshop. Because I think it's still psychological that it's a 1 hour speech versus 5 hours of a workshop. So I feel more value coming out of workshop than the speech, although you may know that it's the same. It's just the psyche. So you sell it that way, which is fine.
Makes sense. Omar, sorry, please go ahead.
Anand, you got a request to keep your fifth card on the table.
Okay. Fifth card. Okay. Let's do this quickly, right? So the fifth card is, I'll show you, I'll open up this card in a moment. I want you to do something with me. All of you, right? You've got your pen, paper, blood, knife, everything that you write on. I'm giving you a scenario, a puzzle sort of thing. Easy puzzle, right? Imagine you are going to a shopping center. And as you enter the shopping center, you find a currency note. Now, it could be Singaporean dollar, maybe euro, dollar, Australian dollar, doesn't matter, rupee, doesn't matter. You find a note, whatever note you like, whatever denomination you like, you find a note. Nobody is looking, nobody is claiming it. You pick up the note, that's yours. Now you're happy. Then your friend comes in. You see a friend coming from the elevators and he said, hey, I've also found a currency note. And he shows you a currency note. It is exactly the same amount. So now both of you decide, all right, so now we have got a good amount of money. Let's go eat something. So first I want you to write down how much money you have right now. 2 currency notes, same amount, write down the number. Now you're going towards the food mall, right? It might be upstairs or sometimes it's downstairs. You're going through the elevators and you see me. I'm standing there and I say, you know what? I'm very happy today. Let me give you $10. Just like that, right? I give you $10, 10 euros, $10, whatever, 10. You get that $10. Now you get that $10. So now add that to your total funds. You take that money, go to the food mall, spend some, have a stomach full, and you realize that you spend half the money, right? So you found something, your friend found something, I gave you $10, you spend half of it. Your friend is a bit cunning. He says, you know what, give my money back. I want to go home. Okay, fine. You give him all his money back. Whatever he gave to you, you give that money back. Now you still have some money left, right? So everybody write down how much money you have left, and maybe you want to show it to the camera, how much money you have left. Is it? Does the number look familiar?
I think this is another masterclass altogether.
Again, I'm saying you, this is not magic, this is technology. But think about it. One person's technology, somebody else's magic.
Absolutely. Anand, we're actually very curious to know how you did that, but I'm sure, like you rightly mentioned, it's technology. On a final note, Anand, I think to end the day, it's a very, very, a question that comes from Omran Matar, and this is a very impactful question because it says, what is the impact that you want to have in the world, and what drives you, Anand?
Well, what drives me is actually my passion towards helping people any way I can. Because I know there have been lots of ups and downs in my life. And there have been times where I was close to being depressed, and there have been times where I have been on the triumph. And all through those times, the only thing that has helped me so far is my intention. Because if you go with the right intention, it doesn't matter what is happening around you. You always sail through. I think it's a fuel, it's a drive that is so intrinsic. You don't need that to be recharged. It is always there. And if you keep that, no pandemic, no nothing can stop you from doing it. At least in my case, that's the thing that drives me.
Wow, that is beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow speakers, we have Anand over here who has just spoken to us about the power of intention. And I'm sure you will have a question or two for him. So don't miss this golden opportunity. He's here with us. What more questions do you have, Anand? I know we are juicing you for the maximum amount of time, but the fact remains that we are so enthralled that, we just want to hear more from you. So
I can also ask a question, Dexter.
Sure.
Anand, that was some money game you played, yeah? And as professional speakers, we all need to keep learning and upgrading all the time, right? Even in the theme of PSS 2021 is raising the game. The theme is that. So as technology technology needs rebooting and upgrading all the time. So what are the 2 tips for us to be regularly updated?
Okay. So one thing which I said is always you keep 2 steps ahead of it in terms of what is happening. We need to be very good at assessing the trends, right? What is going on and what would happen as a result of that. And usually you will find there are not too many variations. There are only a few scenarios. And with your knowledge, or maybe you tie up with other speakers, other thought leaders, understand which scenarios are plausible, which scenarios are least possible. And then you can work on saying, okay, this is most likely going to happen. Let me prepare for that. And if I prepare for that, I'm settled. It doesn't matter what is coming at me, I can handle it. And that's one of the things I always keep saying, that it's not the problem that disturbs us. It is our inability to handle that problem that actually disturbs us. If we are capable, we are happy. It's not the traffic that disturbs us. If you know the shortcut, you don't mind traffic. You need to know the way. And knowing the way in current world, I think, is collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Nobody has won the game alone.
Wow.
So do that as
Wow.
much as you can.
Wow. I think, Anand, you have enthralled us. We have a very senior gentleman, Dr. Sundaraman, who is here, and he just asked us one final question, which is, at what point of time did you come out with the iPOP? And because there's so many, there've been so many comments about it.
Yeah. So iPOP is the name I gave around about 2016. But like I said, the origin it is still somewhere based on the engineering report that we use during that GoldenEye project, because that report really helped me. I mean, look at that. I achieved lots of awards. A couple of things. I got free microwave, free refrigerator out of delivering that great project. I have a legacy with that name, because in TV industry, in electronics industry, what happens is, if you design something, they put your name on that design. So there are at least 10 million TVs in the world that have got my name on it.
Wow.
Such a kind of thing, when that happens to you, you don't want to leave that learning for nothing. And I kept that upgrading, and this is what it is today. Probably in 6 months' time, I might change it a little bit, but this is based on what is happening right now. So that's the story of the iPOP. It has been there for 2004 and onwards.
Wow. I think that
Cool.
that pretty much concludes all of our questions. Meenu, unless you have something.
I think we have covered almost everything.
And
Right.
Anand, how has your experience been with us today? Have you enjoyed your day? Has this been how
I
have you enjoyed
did. And in fact, if you permit, I can do some closing remarks. I have a little bit, just the finishing touch left.
Absolutely. Please go right ahead. Thank you.
Right. So we can just go and finish it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we did talk about a lot of things about content creation formula and all that. But here's the thing. Start using iPOPs, because you don't want to just, learn something, take it and not use it. When we learn something and don't use it, or when we eat something and don't use it, we become obese. When we learn something and don't use it, obesity goes here. So let's not do that. Start using iPOPs, right? That's number one. But I also want to kind of not say that,
do it!
CL above said,
just do it!
That's enough, buddy.
Don't let
that
your
is
dreams be
enough. You can go now. Fine. Okay. So what I want to say is, don't just, throw things at people. Use your iPOPs to create some engaging content, and use it religiously, use it regularly, because when you use it regularly, you become master of it. Use it on social media, use it for articles, book, whatever you create. When you use this, you will be mastering it. Finally, don't forget the ACE. That is the key. We always want to remember, add your essence to your speech, to your writing, everything that you do, and you will stand out. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been such a nice audience. And look, as a thought leader, as a speaker, as a creator, trainer, coach, whatever you call yourself, our job is not just to educate people, but our job is also to entertain people. Because when education meets entertainment, inspiration occurs. Inspiration is the final outcome. So you do want to inspire people to go and improve the world, make our world the better place to live, and be their best version. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Thank you for this opportunity and privilege to have your time here. I'm really thankful, and I appreciate your time and appreciate your attention. Thank you so much. Signing off. This is Anand Tamboli.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Anand a big virtual applause, everybody. Fantastic, Anand. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand,
Brilliant.
Thank you.
very much. Thank you.
Thank you
So,
so much. So, Meenu, that's this session. I think there's so much to digest. There's so much to assimilate from this session. So, what do you think we should do next?